On August 29, 1989, Japanese electronics company NEC launched the Turbografx-16 video game console in North America. It was not a huge success. However, many people still think fondly of the system. I'd like to be one of those people. So today, let's take a look back at the Turbografx launch lineup of games.
You are about to witness the future in video game entertainment. The Turbografx-16 Entertainment Super System.
There are plenty of videos out there about the history of the 16-bit Turbografx console, and I'm not going to regurgitate their work here. Instead, I'm going to share my personal history with the Turbografx, which is, well, non-existent. Never had one, never touched one. None of my friends had one, but I desperately wanted one.
16-bit power, arcade quality graphics, and an unbeatable selection of titles. We'll show you what's available now and sneak previews of what's coming.
I was 14 years old when the Turbografx launched and still a couple of years away from having any kind of money of my own, so the best I could do was ask for one for Christmas. Didn't work. My parents, rightly so in retrospect, told me that I had the innuendo, as my mom called it, and an Atari 7800 and a computer, even though that computer was a TRS-80, and I didn't need any more video games. I wholeheartedly disagreed, but here we are. So aside from seeing one behind a glass display at Lionel Playworld from time to time, my only exposure to the system came from video game magazines like EGM and GamePro. And in those days, any video games you didn't have were quite obviously the holy grail of video games. Look how good that looks! Look at those graphics! All I have is this stupid stinky Nintendo, meh. I'm not besmirching the NES, mind you, I love the NES, I'm just mocking my 14-year-old self.
Turbografx-16, the next generation video game system, with the performance and power to blow you away. Turbografx-16, turbo for speed, graphics for unbelievable graphics, with 10 times the colors of most other video games. And 16 for the high-energy 16-bit graphics processor that makes huge characters with unreal detail like you've never seen before. Turbografx-16, it's more than a game. It's non-stop action and awesome adventure.
Honestly, I don't think I've ever even held a Turbografx. I've seen them on display at gaming conventions, and I have this Turbografx mini console here that I'm just now touching, but an actual Turbografx? Nope. Playing Turbografx games legally these days is a bit of a challenge. We will talk more about the digital legacy of Turbo games as we play through some of the individual titles here, but even just collecting for the actual physical system at this point is for people with deeper pockets than mine. Consoles aren't cheap in decent condition, and even the most common games go for $15 to $20 each at best. So while I would love to have a physical Turbografx collection, I just don't think it's in the cards. Now, here's what I think is fascinating about this period of time in gaming history. If you're unfamiliar, the tech industry was not the global one that it is today. Regions would often get electronics that other parts of the world would never even see. And in the case of the Turbografx, or the PC Engine as it was known in Japan, it was available there for 2 full years before its North American release. Not only that, but the console that is basically the PC Engine 2 was released at the same time in Japan as the PC Engine 1, the Turbografx, was coming out in the West. Think about that in today's marketplace. Imagine the Switch 2 being out for 2 years in Japan before coming out here in the States. It's crazy, right? Well, it happened. It happened all the time. With that insanely long lead-up time before launching here, NEC had accumulated over 60 games for the PC Engine. So, how many of those 60 games did we get at launch? 4. Yep, 4 games. Only 6.66 repeating of the existing library. Again, it's crazy to try and fathom. And before the system was completely discontinued, Japan would amass over 540 more games for the PC Engine that never got a North American release, showing the disparity in the system's popularity between the two regions. But don't think about all that. It's August 29th, 1989, you're lucky enough to live in one of the select markets where there's an official launch, and you've got yourself a brand new Turbografx-16. Here's what you could have been playing on day 1.
Join Keith Courage as he battles alien invaders and restores peace to the Earth.
going.
Keith Courage in Alpha Zones was the pack-in game with the system, adapted from the anime-based 1988 Japanese release on the PC Engine, and North America the hell up. In a story that you do not get without reading the manual, you're Keith Courage, running through the Alpha Zones after a meteor strikes Earth and unleashes members of BAD, or Beastly Alien Dudes. Each level consists of an overworld where you battle cats and moles in helmets, while also talking to friends like Nurse Nancy, who will heal you for a price. Well, some friend you are, Nurse Nancy. Cut me a break, I'm fighting beastly alien dudes over here. For you. When you reach the end of the overworld part, you are carried away to the underworld via the power of the rainbow to enter your Nova suit and mech shit up. In each of the underworld stages, you'll eventually battle a bizarre boss character, but not before dodging rocks and killing enemies who are literally walking guns with faces. I enjoyed discovering everything Keith Courage had to offer and look forward to finishing this one up in the future. There are a couple of tricky platforming parts, but overall it's not very difficult. It's bright and colorful with terrific music, and I love the gun dudes. I love the gun dudes. It's truly insane character design. In an almost perplexing decision, Keith Courage, which again is the game that came with the system, is not included on the Turbografx mini console. It has also never been released digitally on any platform whatsoever. I'm guessing because of rights issues being based on an anime, but in the end there is no legal way to play this game outside of owning the original Turbo chip. But you should play this game, and so you know what to do.
Take off on an 8-stage sprint from Paris to Dakar in Victory Run, the road racing challenge of a lifetime.
Victory Run is the racing game of the launch lineup. You always need a racing game. Originally released in Japan in late 1987, this is an arcade rally racer in the style of Outrun. When you start the game, after entering your initials, you're allowed to choose 20 spare parts for your vehicle, and that's all you get access to until all legs of the race are completed. Run through your allotment of spare parts, for example, and that's that. Your journey ends. You steer using left and right on the D-pad and shift gears by moving up and down. Now, I'm revealing some bias here, but I am not a fan of manual transmissions, neither in real cars nor in video games. I suppose in an arcade cabinet it can be slightly more tolerable because usually you have a gear shift mechanism in addition to the steering wheel. But here, if you need to switch gears while in a turn, and you will need to do this, that means you have to stop steering. That can be a deadly decision. The game looks sharp and the background music is catchy without getting annoying, but actually playing it is an irritating experience. Your car appears to be half the size of any other vehicle on the road, making judging your movement sometimes impossible. And if you slow down to size things up, so to speak, another car will just come from behind and murder you. The manual suggests that you don't necessarily have to go full speed all the time, but that's a trick to allow the game to murder you. Usually the first level of a video game serves to ease you into things before ramping up the difficulty. Not so with Victory Run. If you crash more than once in the first part of the race, that's it, forget it, you're not making it to the end. And even one crash is pushing it, to be honest. There's a timer ticking down and there are no extended time bonuses like you might be expecting here. You do have an additional minute of time available, but it's a banked amount that carries over to each leg of the race. Use it all up before finishing the first part of the race, and that's that. It's gone. Victory Run was, and essentially still is, exclusive to the Turbografx. It was later released on the Wii Virtual Console, which is no longer accessible, and also on the PlayStation Network for PS3, but that too may or may not still be accessible. You can only get to that store from the console, and oftentimes it just doesn't work, so it's hard to say for sure if it's still something you can purchase as of this recording. It is the one American launch game that is available on the Turbografx Mini, however, so that is your easiest option. But just don't bother. There are plenty of other driving games that are way better than this. I cannot recommend anyone spend any time with it, especially if you've never played it before.
In Legendary Axe, you must penetrate the evil place and free the beautiful maiden Flare. Take hold of the sacred axe sting and let your courage shine.
Releasing 2 walk from left to right hack and slash platformers in your launch lineup of 4 games is an interesting choice, but that's what you have if you also picked up the legendary axe, a PC Engine port from September of 1988. You're a barbarian whose lady friend has been kidnapped by a cult. Go get her back. Your axe is named Sting, and that's basically the coolest thing about it. It certainly doesn't seem very legendary. Hell, you can barely see it. I was expecting an axe that took up like a third of the screen or something. Over time, you'll power up Sting to where if you let the Sting meter refill, you'll hit with more power. That means that using turbo on the controller to hit enemies repeatedly is actually less effective. And that's a weird feature to include in your game on a brand new console where the standard controllers feature turbo buttons, something that previous consoles did not offer. Hey kids, our console comes with turbo buttons, unlike those lame other consoles.
Don't use them.
This is one of those games that, well, it's just kind of a jackass to the player, especially during the platforming elements. It loves to throw things at you right when you're attempting a tricky jump, causing you to fall and die. That's not fun, but that was the style at the time. It makes the game seem longer. Do not even get me started on the boss at the end of the second level, which is a pair of boulders. One regular boulder and one with an energy shield. Boulders, big rocks. It is a choice. What are we doing here? The most fascinating aspect of the game is the music, which does not fit the aesthetic at all. I just don't feel like this Ricky Ricardo music fits with a giant muscle head hacking things into bits with his huge axe. This second level track sounds like some sinister hip hop from a crime thriller. The Legendary Axe is one of those games that feels like a big collection of ideas, none of which converge into a complete package. That's why it's surprising to me that there is a fair amount of high praise for the Legendary Axe, both from the time of release where it won several end-of-year gaming awards, and currently as modern gamers reflect back on the console. I find it baffling, but that's why we're all out here putting our thoughts on the internet, to find kindred spirits. But I cannot be your kindred Legendary Axe spirit. The game is pretty lousy. The Legendary Axe is available on a turbo card, and that's that. It never appeared anywhere else. That's odd considering how well regarded it was at the time, and that it's not based on any kind of licensed property. Maybe someone thought that some of these enemy sprites could be perceived as slightly problematic, and decided to err on the side of caution and leave this one behind. I don't know that for sure though, I'm just speculating. Regardless, I don't feel like this is a title that would even be on a top 1,000 give us modern access to these games list.
Alien Crush brings you all the sights, sounds, and action of an arcade pinball game. Crush the aliens and rack up a record-setting score.
Finally, there's Alien Crush, which is the real winner of the launch lineup. If you've played the recent pinball video game Demon's Tilt, you may be interested in some of the games that inspired it. Well, Alien Crush is one of those games. Alien Crush is a classic 2D pinball game with alien sci-fi themes of the H.R. Giger variety. You know, skulls and xenomorphs and drippy things. First released on the PC Engine a year earlier, the one table you play features 2 playfields, an upper and lower level, and also several bonus screens. From the main menu screen, you can choose between fast or slow gameplay and 2 distinctly different audio tracks. Then you're battling aliens with your flipper skills on the playfield. And it's good! It's 2D pinball with a nifty theme, and it is dripping with style. Physics-wise, it doesn't hold a candle to modern video game pinball efforts, of course, but this is still enjoyable to play, unlike some other 2D pinball efforts from the era. My only real complaint about it is that the momentary cut to black as you go back and forth from the upper and lower playfields is a little jarring. And there's actually an end game to Alien Crush, as reaching a certain score will defeat the alien and the game will then congratulate you. I thought my score was quite high in some of my initial play sessions, but I still have a long way to go to reach that winning score. Thankfully, I love this game and will happily keep trying. Its availability is similar to Victory Run, as it was released on the Wii and PS3 stores, which are now mostly defunct. It also appears on the Turbografx Mini, but at the last minute, the version used was swapped from the English version to the Japanese release. The only difference appears to be the copyright info on the title screen, but still, if you're looking for the legit Alien Crush experience from the North American launch, you only have one option.
Get turbocharged with Turbografx-16. Sophisticated graphics, sizzling speed, and sensational sound. The entertainment super system for higher energy video games.
So there you go. If you're looking to get into the Turbografx and want to experience it from the beginning like I do, you've got 2 recommendations from the launch lineup to get started with. Of the 4, Keith Courage made sense as a pack-in as it's colorful and fun, and Alien Crush is an engaging and atmospheric 2D pinball game from an era where minigames of a similar nature just weren't very good. It should be noted that all 4 of these launch games are fairly short and are also 100% single-player experiences, as the initial Turbografx model only had 1 controller port, just like the PC engine. It wouldn't be until late 1989 when the TurboTap add-on would be released in the States, allowing up to 5-player support. Multiplayer games would soon follow. In the future, we will revisit the Turbografx from time to time, as there's lots more on this system that I am fascinated to learn more about. But for now, thank you so much for watching. I hope you found it useful. Did you have a Turbografx? Let me know in the comments if you did. I'd love to hear from people lucky enough to have one when it was released. Or don't. I know you've got another video to get to. I get it. All good. So until next time, let's play some games.